Hey, you go ahead.
According to a survey in 2007 of adopted parents, there are more than 108,000 children up for adoption every year. But this number keeps rising. These children have never had proper families to take care of them and to give them the love and support that all children need growing up. While students are often considered too young to be thinking about starting a family, I believe more effort should be made to educate them and adults on adoption and hopefully convince them to consider it in the future or at least support the cause as a whole. It's incredibly necessary to see why these children need proper homes, how the process actually affects the children, and how a family that has adopted actually functions. Minli Lau is a researcher at the University of Illinois, and she does lots of work on adoption. In her article, Relationships Between Disabilities and Adoption Outcomes in African American Children, she takes a look at how certain orphans are at greater risk of mental and physical disabilities because of their position and poverty. One of her quotes in this article states that given the large number of children with disabilities in the child welfare system, it is clear that the needs of children with disabilities cannot be addressed without proper knowledge on what exactly special needs are. A lot of times, parents might be considering adoption, but then find out that their child has special needs. But because they are misinformed on what exactly these special needs are, they might go off from the adoption without taking proper consideration first. And the worst part is that these kids, because of their disabilities, are often at a greater risk of not being adopted ever, or even not even making it very far in life, just because of their poverty and certain disabilities. These children are a lot like any other kids. They worry about similar problems. They want to fit in. They want to be popular. They want a proper family. And they need that proper family to help them through these times. Marta Reynoso is a psychologist who works out of Barcelona, Spain. And she, much like Minli Lau, has done lots of work in the field of adoption and how children are affected by it. In her article, Internationally Adopted Children's General and Adoption-Specific Stressors, she looked at 8 to 12-year-olds who had been adopted and compared some of the problems and coping mechanisms that they had with those of other children who weren't adopted. And she found that they have very similar problems across the board. They want to fit in they don't want to follow the rules, stuff like that. These kids aren't too different from normal children. Now, a lot of people, they do have specific problems that adhere to them. For example, in her article, she states, victimization such as insults, jokes, teasing, derogatory terms, and intrusive questioning were reported among the children as well. But they won't be able to properly push through in life unless they have a family to guide them through these issues. If they just sit there without proper parents to help them out, then they aren't going to get any better in life. Now, adoption is not always the first choice due to the expensive cost and overall work that goes into it. But it should always be on your mind, at least, because it's possible that many people are stricken by things such as infertility issues as they grow older. But one family who came from Washington did not let this stop them from starting a family. My parents met Jim and Hora Huffman while they were in their own adoption process. And they found out about this couple. Like I said, they live out of Washington and they have adopted 2 children from China, both with disabilities. Before, they were not able to have kids and they had tried several different options. But now that they've adopted, they say that they wish more people would do it, just because of the special chance that you can give these kids. I have a full transcript of their interview that I had with them. Well, it's almost full. Some parts were cut off for simple reasons such as, it was very long. But it basically, in the interview, one of the Cora stated, in most cases of international adoption, the kids are legally orphans and truly have no parents and need a family to raise them, especially any child with any type of special needs. Because of the quality of life in some countries, living with a special need can be very scary and sometimes even dangerous. But these parents were able to give these two kids a new chance at life, a new chance to be able to live out their lives as normal kids, something that they definitely would not have been able to do if they had remained where they were from. Every year, more than half of the children who go up for adoption don't get adopted. It might not seem like a lot, but even if one child is given a proper family, education, and especially the gift of Christianity, to be able to, learn faith in Christ, then that would be amazing. That's one child whose life has been changed because of this. More families should consider adoption, because these children can't always fend for themselves in these dangerous situations. Because they're just like other children and need proper families to guide them through the harshest parts of life. And because they can be loved just as much as any other child, and can even be the way that a family is finally able to begin. I want you all to put this idea in your head. Just go out and research more about this topic and figure out why it has such an effect on our world. It often gets pushed to the side and is considered not that big of a deal, but it really is. These kids are our future, and they deserve just as much love and respect as the rest of God's children. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and we'd ask that you stay put, and at this time we're going to open it up to questions. Now, if you have not had a chance, we're especially looking to try and get new voices heard, but also if you had a chance and you'd like to participate, that's fine, but we may limit it a little bit. So, Jackson, I'm going to let you call upon the students that you'd like to hear from, and if you would address their questions, please.
Okay, Josiah?
What kind of disabilities do orphans suffer from most?
Lots of them can suffer from certain mental disabilities that are not exactly diagnosable, because it's not like these children are born with things such as autism or Down syndrome, but because they're neglected, they don't get proper education, they can be delayed a lot of the times and just not have as much education as lots of other kids. Hope?
How old do they have to be before they can no longer be adopted?
I think there's, I'm not for sure, but I think it goes all the way up into upper teens. And after that, sometimes they live in orphanages and they aren't allowed to be in orphanages after they reach a certain age. And then they have to go out into the world and actually, defend for themselves. And sometimes they aren't given the proper education beforehand to be able to do that. They might not even be able to read or write. Mom?
Do you know if it's more difficult to adopt an international child than it is from your own country?
It can be a lot more difficult, but really, either way, you are helping out a lot if you are able to. Certainly it would be more helpful for international because, for example, kids in China often get left alive. China has the highest number of, adopted children who come to America especially because of their one child per family policy. And so if they have another child by accident or something like that, a lot of times they just get left and abandoned. But even here, there are still children who need help in America alone. Trent?
Did you say that your parents were adopted? Or who did you say was adopted?
My parents have adopted.
Oh, your parents have adopted?
Yes.
Okay, how did they find out about the kids? Who they adopted?
Through a lot of different outlets, they found out that, this is a big problem, especially in China. And so they looked into it and they found an organization, I think, I don't remember the name of it, but it's there's lots of different adoption organizations that are based out of certain countries. There's ones based out of Africa, out of China, India, several different countries.
Okay. I know there may be other questions, but we need to move on for today. Let's give him a welcome round of applause.